You're clicking on this video, you're probably wondering about the things that I wish I would have known when I was in perimenopause that I know now that I've gone through menopause. And it really stems from a conversation that I had the other night with a group of ladies, and they were all kind of early to mid 40s. They were in perimenopause. And we were just having this discussion about kind of the changes that start happening in your body when you're in perimenopause. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. The things that I wish I knew then that I know now that would have better prepared me for menopause. My name is Beverly. This is a channel dedicated to health and wellness and personal growth. So if that interests you, please hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and like the video. Let's get into the 5 things that I wish I had known when I was in perimenopause that I know now, and that would have prepared me to go through menopause. So the first thing that I wish that I would have known that seems so simple, but is so very important, and that is to find a doctor who will listen to you and find a doctor, preferably a woman, who is at least of the age, is what I would say, or has been through menopause, so she'll have a better understanding of what you're going through. I waited and found a doctor when I was in menopause and really struggling. And I wish that I had found a doctor in perimenopause so that I could have worked with that person and they could have guided me to where all the things that I was going through, it wouldn't have felt so foreign. It wouldn't have felt so surprising, and that we could have maybe mitigated some of the symptoms that I was having. And I didn't do that. I waited until I fully crashed and burned. By the way, I'll put a link to my video about how I was basically blindsided by menopause. And so find a doctor who understands menopause and female health. And it's kind of easier said than done. It can be a challenge. And earlier on, I had doctors who were male. And nothing against male doctors, but in this case, I would say, ladies, get a female doctor who will better understand you. So that would be my first piece of advice that I wish that I had done and not waited until I was squarely in menopause and suffering, that I had found a doctor who would be able to help me and guide me along the way. So that would be number 1. So piggybacking on finding the right doctor, when I was in perimenopause, what I wish that I had done was when I did kind of annual blood work for like blood sugar and your cortisol levels and your cholesterol and all those things, that different things that they test for, I would generally have that done annually. And what I wish I would have added to that was to test my progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, start testing those hormones so that I would have a gauge of where I was. So I would have a kind of starting point when I was in perimenopause, so that as those numbers shifted, I really had something concrete to look for, and I would understand why I was feeling the way that I was feeling when my symptoms started. Instead, it felt like everything kind of came at once. And it probably happened gradually, but I didn't know. I didn't have any point of reference. So that would be the second thing that I would say. I don't know that most doctors are going to suggest that for you. Nobody suggested it for me, honestly. So what I would say is it might be something that you have to insist on, that you might have to say, listen, at this point, I'm 45 years old or however old you are. I'm in this window of perimenopause, and I'd like to start getting a gauge on what my hormonal levels are so that we will have a baseline and we'll have something to go by. So that would be my second thing. Have your hormones tested when you're in perimenopause, and then at least you have a starting point. You have a gauge, and you can start at least mentally preparing yourself. So the third thing is I use HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy. Actually, bioidentical hormones is what I use. There's also synthetic hormones. And what I wish I knew that I learned later when I was already in menopause and I was already on HRT is that as you get your hormones tested, like I was saying for point number 2, you can start hormone replacement therapy early. If that's something you're already kind of open to doing when you go through menopause, what I learned later from my doctor was it's really something that as women you can start earlier. You don't have to wait like I did fully crash and burn, right? And I say that and it sounds dramatic, but for me, it was really dramatic. And it's maybe not so for every woman, but really the point of this whole video for me is to put this bug in your ear so that you're aware that there are options for you. I suffered through all of that. And if HRT is something that you are open to, know that you can start it when you're in perimenopause, depending on what your hormone levels look like. And your doctor will be able to guide you. But know that you don't have to suffer through those symptoms and just kind of wait and ride it all out. You don't have to do that. The fourth thing that I wish that I had known when I was in perimenopause is that that stage and menopause itself is more than just hot flashes. It's like that was the one thing that I heard so much about, that we hear a lot about, are hot flashes. And that's definitely a symptom that a lot of women have. It actually wasn't a dominant symptom that I had. I had a little bit of hot flashes, but it really wasn't anything that was super disruptive, didn't last very long. That wasn't really my symptom, but that is kind of what I associate with perimenopause and menopause, or these hot flashes. For me, how it affected me was really more in an emotional way. I had deep sadness and deep anger, and my mood swings were just very erratic. And I didn't understand what was happening. I really thought that I was losing my mind. I really thought that I was going crazy. And I wasn't going crazy. My hormones were going crazy. But again, I just wasn't aware of that. And I wish that had I had a good doctor at that time, someone had told me that my symptoms would be more than just hot flashes, that it can be hot flashes, it can be mood swings, it can be weight gain, it can be foggy brain, it can be memory loss, it can be anxiety. I had anxiety. It can be a wide range of symptoms. So if you're not landing squarely in that kind of hot flash category, which I wasn't, the things that you're feeling, if you're feeling a little off, remember, I kept saying to my husband, I just don't feel like myself. I feel off. And I was so emotional. And I really had a lot of shame about it, because it's not that I don't get sad. It's not that I don't feel overwhelmed. Of course I do. I'm a human being, right? I feel those things. But I felt like my emotion wasn't really matching kind of whatever it was I was going through. And so that was, in my case, my perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms that I was having. And I wish I would have known that. It's not just hot flashes. So if you're feeling a bunch of other things, like I said, any insomnia can happen. So know that it ain't just hot flashes. It can be a wide variety of things. And that's why testing your hormones and kind of seeing where you stand is super important, so that you can get a gauge and then you can go from there. And then the last thing that happens to so many of us, that happened to me, was the belly fat. And that drop in estrogen, that is what is causing that belly fat. And I remember being so frustrated. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I'm an exerciser. I try and eat healthy and that sort of thing. And when I was in perimenopause, all of a sudden, I just started getting this belly, this gut. And it's not that I'm not a person who doesn't have to watch her weight. I do have to watch my weight. I will gain weight. But my stomach, my belly, that was not where I gained weight. And then all of a sudden I had this gut that no matter what I did, it just was not, it was getting bigger and it wasn't going away. And it was so frustrating, because I exercised. It didn't matter. I exercised a lot. It didn't matter. I dieted and I cut calories. It didn't matter. None of that mattered. None of that was working, because this dip in my estrogen, which causes all these changes in your body, in your fat distribution, in your hunger hormones, it shifts all of these different things in the body, which is what leads to that belly fat. And it can be one of the most frustrating things. I felt honestly betrayed by my body, because I just thought, okay, I'm going to exercise and then you're going to do these things. I'm going to really rein in my diet, and then you do this other thing over here. And I'm telling you, for me, it just didn't matter. And I wish when I was in perimenopause, I knew that so I wouldn't have beat up on myself so much about it, and really, again, got myself help and guidance from a physician who knew exactly what was happening and who'd be able to guide me through it. So those are the things that I wish that I had known when I was going through perimenopause, that I felt like wasn't really talked about. I felt like the symptoms that are there, or I feel like the symptoms that are there, are so broad and can really be different for different women. And while there might be this thread that runs through it, know that your symptoms might not look like somebody else's symptoms. And whatever it is that you're going through, just again, know that you don't have to suffer through it. Know that there's help available. And I appreciate so much you watching. I hope that this is helpful to you, or at least you consider some of these things if you're in that perimenopausal age range. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, like, hit the notification bell. If you have any comments about your own experience right now, or when you were in perimenopause, if you've already passed that point, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Please leave any questions in the comments. I'll do my best to answer. And I thank you so much for watching and spending time with me. And until next time, take it easy.